Good evening, everyone. We're going to get started here. Welcome to the July 18th meeting of the Highland Park Zoning Board of Appeals. Patrick, may I have an attendance roll call, please?
Yes. Member Chase, Member Trushansky, Member Beck, here. Member Zaransky,
Here.
Member Colither,
Here.
Vice Chair Yablon,
Here.
and Chair Bay.
Here. Okay,
quorum.
first item on our agenda is the approval of the minutes from the June 20th meeting. Have all of my fellow members had a chance to review the minutes? Does someone have a motion?
I'll move that we adopt the minutes of the June 20th meeting.
I will second that as well, and to state that I watched the video for the record.
Very good. Okay. Say motion by Member Colither to approve the minutes as presented, seconded by Vice Chair Yablon. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Seeing none, the motion passes. Minutes are approved. We will move on. Item 3, business from the public. Is there anybody here who has any business before this board that is not on the agenda? Nobody? I don't see anything. Patrick, you're not aware of anybody or anything? No. Okay, we'll move on to old business. First item and only item old business is VAR 2024-00020, property 2366 Eganndale Road. Does staff have a kind of a refresher presentation for us?
Yes. I also want to let everyone know that 2040 Kipling Court, if you are here for that case, will not be before us tonight. So if you have any questions, you can feel free to contact me, Patrick Hoffman, Planner 2 with the city.
Thank you for doing that, Patrick. You reminded me before the meeting, and I already forgot to make that announcement. That was withdrawn from the agenda, so appreciate that.
Why I'm here. Okay, so 2366 Eganndale Road. This was before us before the June 20th meeting. The applicant, Ryan and Sydney Bloom, trust dated February 15, 2022. The request is to now construct a single family resident that will exceed the R4 maximum permitted height, to allow 2 roof peaks that exceed the maximum height by 1 foot, and to allow the roof access that is 1 foot higher than the maximum. Again, here is the approximate location of the property near the lake, an aerial shot, the existing property and how you can see it sloping with the change of grade of the property, the topographic showing the decline in slope across the property. This is site plan from above. Still looks familiar. But this is what was before you last time. They were requesting 5 feet for the rooftop deck area. They have changed their proposal to be 1 foot to match the roof peaks. So they dropped the encroachment by 4 feet and to stay in line with the 1 foot encroachment that the roof peak that they're also asking for with the roof peak. Here's just the other angles. As you can see, it's now in line with the rest of the house, so it's not poking out like it was previously. So they reduced it by 4 feet, so it's only 1 foot above the maximum height of 32 feet. So the structure will be at 33 feet. I didn't receive any additional comments since the June 20th meeting. These were just the previous notes from our previous meeting. And again, this is to construct a new single-family resident that will exceed the R4 maximum permitted height, to allow 2 roof peaks that exceed the maximum height by 1 foot, and then to allow the roof access that is 1 foot higher than the maximum height. I asked the board to use the Chapter 150 zoning code standards of approval. If you have any questions, I know that the applicant is here.
Anybody have any questions for staff? Seeing none, I will ask if there's anybody else, Mr. Bernstein, who would like to speak on this matter. And I will remind you, you're still under oath from the previous hearing.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Again, my name is Cal Bernstein. I'm the attorney for the applicant. I really don't have much to add besides what Patrick said. we listened. We heard the comments during the deliberation. You were okay with the 1 feet. You were split on the additional 4 feet. So we explored other options with regard to the roof deck access, and we found a product that doesn't require such a large variance. And so we're coming back with that. Frankly, we don't know if that's going to be built. It's much more expensive, but it's something that we're exploring. But for the purposes of tonight and the variance that we're just requesting the 1 feet that last time it seemed to, based on your deliberation, seemed to be not to be an issue. So we request that you grant the variance. We're available for any questions.
Anybody have any questions for Mr. Bernstein? Seeing none, I'll ask if there's anybody else here that wants to be heard on this matter. Apparently not. Okay. We can begin by polling the board members. I'll start with Member Beck.
Well, I was in favor of it last time, so I'm still in favor of it.
Member Zaransky.
Me as well. Do appreciate the applicant's team for making the modifications to please the rest of the board, but I am in favor of variation.
Member Collier.
I want to thank you as well for making the changes. I am in agreement that the variance now is relatively minor, and therefore I would grant it and believe that you have met the reasons for granting a variance.
Vice Chair Young.
I too believe the standards have been met and appreciate, even though I wasn't here, you listening to the board's recommendations before moving forward. So I too would be in favor.
I echo what everybody else has already said. I believe the standards have been met, and I would favor the approval of the variance as well. Having said that, I will now call for a vote. Does somebody have a motion?
I'll move that we adopt the variance as presented by staff.
I'll second it. Member Beck.
Okay. Member Collier moved to adopt the approval order to approve the variance, seconded by Member Beck. Can I get a roll call vote, please, Patrick?
Yes. Member Beck?
Aye.
Member Zaransky?
All right.
Member Collier?
Aye.
Vice Chair Yablon?
Aye.
And Chair Bay?
Aye. Congratulations. Variance is approved. Thank you. Okay, moving on. Our first item of new business is tree 2024-00767. I think that's a little preview of what kind of case this is going to be. Property address is 953 Judson. The appellant is Dean, or R. Dean and Leslie Bradshaw. Does staff have a presentation for us, please?
Yes. Okay. 953 Judson Avenue. Applicant Dean and Leslie Bradshaw. The proposal is to remove a heritage tree. This property is located in the R6 zoning district. The existing home was built in 1970, according to the Lake County Assessor's Office. The requested relief is to remove one heritage tree, a 36-inch white oak. The site location is here, just kind of off of St. John's Avenue. Here's an aerial of the property. The tree in question is pretty much smack dab in the middle of the property, adjacent to the house. Here's some photos. This is from the front. You can see the tree above the roof line of the house, and then this is the rear yard showing the tree adjacent to the house. These are photos submitted by the applicant showing how close it is to the deck and some crumbling of the side, which is around right here. So the proposed work is to remove this heritage tree. The applicant submitted a letter from a certified arborist that detailed the tree as average to good condition with no visible deformities, cavities, splits, fungi, fruiting, bodies in the base, on the main trunk, or visible in the canopy. City Forestry is also here and provided a memo. Forestry does not support this proposed project and again has submitted a memo for the ZBA. I didn't receive any other neighborhood comment, and no other city division has comments. So the requested relief is to remove one heritage tree, a 36-inch white oak, and ask the board to use the Chapter 94 standards of approval.
Does anybody have any questions for staff at this point? No? Okay.
Forest next.
I'm sorry?
We get the forester next. The city forest.
Yeah, well, I'm going to, okay. We can do it in that order if sure. I see our forester is here. You can ask if you would like to be the next to speak on this matter. If you state your name again for the record, Ben.
Ben Miller, City Forester, City of Highland Park. If you have any questions for me, happy to. My thoughts are summarized in the memo, but
If you could just hit some of the highlights and say why you don't think it's necessary that this be removed.
when it comes down to it, we don't have any permits for any development here. What I've been told is that they want to rebuild a deck, although no permits are in currently. I think there all are alternatives that could accommodate the tree and rebuilding the staircase as seen. I feel that the state of the stucco is largely due to the swelling of the wood of the deck and the position it's been put in between the tree and the structure itself. So with some very minor alterations, I think the two can coexist as they have for more than 100 years at this point.
Anybody have any questions for Ben?
Can you address their concerns about branches falling on their house, especially given the outbreak of tornadoes we just had?
Sure. As was highlighted in both my memo and by their independent arborist, the canopy is healthy. There's no dead wood. There's no evidence that it is at any more risk than it has been since the tree, since the house was built right next to this tree, or the addition put onto this house more aptly. Certainly, there are many trees in proximity to this home. The chances of this one are failing no greater than they were before, no greater than the trees next to it. In fact, based on its evaluation, probably even less. Oak is a very hardy, native hardwood and survived a very long time in the position it's in. And it's been maintained immaculately, I gotta say.
What's the likelihood that the root structure is damaging the foundation?
Not really, couldn't say. I certainly haven't seen any evidence that's the case, and it's hard to see from the exterior given that the deck is right there and you can't really see the roof flare.
If the tree was or is properly maintained and pruned and care is taken to take notice of any branches that might be in danger of overhanging the house or falling off or whatever, you're saying there's nothing that makes this tree any more hazardous than any others?
No, the risk rating would be low.
Any other question?
So what you're saying is because of the variety of tree that it is, it's less likely that the branches will fall off during a storm, or?
We're not talking about a fast-growing soft-wooded tree, for example, silver maple, willow, cottonwood. All of those, typically, we see failures more frequently. Faster growing, softer tissue, propensity to grow out branches in inopportune places. White oak, very strong hardwood. And again, it's been maintained very well for decades.
So you'd put like a baby under there and be fine?
I can't say there's no risk.
No, I
Even-
understand that. I mean, a squirrel could fall out. I mean, I get
Sure,
that.
sure.
Probably not during the storm.
When we have issues with oaks, they're red oaks. This is a white. They tend to be more hardy than most oaks.
And that hardiness is not just the trunk, it's the branches as well.
Correct. The structural integrity of the wood itself.
Okay, thank you.
Just out of curiosity, do you know about how far down that root structure would go?
Typically, you find, I believe it's 80% of the roots within the first 18 inches of soil.
Okay.
Kind of a misnomer that they just absolutely go straight down. In order to keep the structural integrity of a tree that size, they stay pretty high. White oak's a little bit deeper than others.
Is there any way to ascertain whether as Member Beck inquired, whether there's the potential for foundation damage starting to, or do you just have to wait until something bad happens and then say, oops, those are the roots of the tree causing that?
Sure. No, you can do some exploratory excavation. They can carefully either hand dig or use what's called an air spade. It would likely require the deck and porch to be removed, as it's a fairly messy process, but you remove the soil away and you can basically visualize the roots and what direction they're going and hopefully visualize any damage if it's there.
If it looked like the roots were invading the foundation, would that change your opinion on whether it's necessary to remove the tree?
I would want to see, well, one, evidence of it before we were to approve administratively something that would otherwise appear before the zoning board. And then ascertain whether or not it's something that's due to the age of the foundation itself or the tree itself.
This is more of a question probably for city council, for the general council. So the homeowners brought to us concern about safety with this tree falling on their house. We deny this request. We put the city at any risk for
You're right.
litigation.
It is. I'll feel that a little bit, but I would say it is probably more appropriate for corporation counsel. But we're not the insurer of everybody's safety and well-being. If there's a reason and we fail to act, in the absence of an obvious reason, again.
Right, but
corporation counsel.
their hardship here is that there's a safety concern.
Yeah, and I guess it's for us to assess how much of a concern that is actually. So, or if that's part of our considerations. Any other questions, sir?
What about lightning?
Always a possibility. There's no evidence that this tree has been struck previously. What do they say, the maximum, 1 in a million chance? I've certainly seen it. Usually does not cause a complete failure of the tree. It's a very messy process, but doesn't usually cause the catastrophic damage that I imagine is visualized when you think about a lightning strike on a tree.
Any other questions for Ben at this point? Thank you. Is there someone else here who'd like to speak on this matter? Will you both be speaking?
I guess I'll speak. You can chime in.
Okay. Well,
So I'm Leslie Bradshaw,
okay.
owner of this house. I actually was born in this house.
Okay. Let me ask you first if you affirm or attest to the fact that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I affirm.
Very good. Please proceed.
So we do understand that the tree is alive. It is not a dead tree, but it is definitely causing us anxiety, especially as storms are becoming more and more forceful. We do feel branches, smaller ones, falling from that tree. We have tried to cut it back. We've gotten pruning for it, but it's still, the little branches are still falling down on it. It is angled towards our house, and it is pushing the stairs that we have into the siding or into the stucco of the side of the house. If we want to rebuild our stairs, which is what started this whole project, we can't rebuild the stairs to code, which is like 36 inches. We'd have to get an extra variance to build them smaller. And of course, the tree still grows. I think the arborist said like an inch a year or something like that. So, then what? In 10 years, we have to now, instead of a 30-inch, stairway, it's 25, and eventually we can't even walk up the stairs. We've had some really serious storms the last few days, and it's really causing a ton of anxiety for us. We have quite a large property that has over 20 other extremely large trees on the property. So we're not taking away from large trees on our property. We do love the trees. If this tree were a little bit further away from our house, we would not be in front of you here today. But it's causing us a lot of anxiety and damaging to our house, and it's really hard to sleep in this storm. So, did you have anything to add? So that's kind of why we're here.
Any questions? No?
May I
Of course.
say?
Please.
Just simply, I'm well aware, you're aware as well, that I'm very restricted in what I can say at any given time during.
Not by us.
Well, right, by the conditions of what you do but as far as the liability issue is concerned, I mean, there is a heritage tree ordinance. It is a general policy of the cities. I guess I just wanted to add that I can't opine on the legality, what legal issues the city, but I would imagine that given that it's a policy of the city, that it might not be an issue, but anyway, that's all I wanted to say.
I will add one other thing, actually. I forgot that there was another tree right near the house, maybe 30 years ago, that was struck by lightning and fell down on top of the gazebo. Luckily not towards the house, but on the gazebo and back, which you can't see from these pictures. And we had to rebuild the entire gazebo because of that. So it has happened. So maybe that's the once in a million, but it has happened. And our neighbors just maybe a few months ago had a tree completely come down in their front yard after a storm. And luckily for them, it landed between the two houses and not on their house. So there is a ferocity of these storms that are increasing, and it's definitely causing us anxiety.
Thank you. Anybody have anything else at this point? No? Thank you. Is there anybody else here who would like to be heard on this matter? Seeing none?
Can we ask the forester to come back up?
Of course, sure.
And just, my question is a tree that age growing at that rate?
I would say no. This is a mature tree. It's spending most of its energy maintaining, especially since this one's pruned fairly regularly. It's trying to put out leaves so that it can sustain itself rather than put on girth.
It is, however, going to continue to press against the deck that it's already touching.
Assuming it's not given the birth that it probably should have when the deck was initially built.
It doesn't look like there's a lot of room for that staircase to give it any extra, they're saying they can't even rebuild it. They might be able to repair the existing, but to tear it off and build a smaller one is not going to be up to code.
Could it be built with a landing that circumnavigates the tree such that the staircase can be put elsewhere? Just one thought, could it be built larger so that the staircase could be up against that far wall that's seen behind the tree so that it can be made, met to code? As I've discussed with the plan reviewers, that railing isn't currently code compliant. So could you scale down that size to make it code compliant and give yourself enough room? These are all hypotheticals that we don't have answers to right now.
Any other questions for anybody at this point? No? All right. How about if we poll the board members? Let's start with Member Zaransky.
So I'm sympathetic to the issue here. I think the tree is unfortunately too close to the house. However, there is an ordinance that we're, required by the city to uphold that I don't necessarily know if the standards have really quite been met to meet removing this tree. Again, I think there are options to save the tree and build a new deck. We see it all the time with trees in the middle of decks. I'm not saying that's ideal, but it is an option. I guess I'm on the fence. I'd like to hear what some other members of the board have to say before I would say where I'm at in this, but I'm kind of totally in the middle at the moment.
Member Cullither.
Thank you. I think I agree with Member Zaransky in that there is an ordinance on the books that we are required to interpret and judge whether or not the case has been made for a tree removal permit. And this is outside of one tree, and by the Park District at Sunset Valley Golf Course. This is the only tree case I can recall to come before us without there being some sort of structure being built that they needed to have the tree removed by. This seems, if we had a plan and the only way to make the plan compliant with the code was to remove the tree, it might be more palatable to argue that the tree needs to be removed. Lacking such a plan, I find it hard, and the consideration of other alternatives, I find it hard to justify, and I know this sounds horrible, that the case to remove the tree is your good night's sleep. And I really do want to find a middle ground if we can, or there really is no middle ground because you would like the tree removed, but I think what we need is a clearer justification for the tree to be removed.
Thank you. Member Beck?
I find it hard not to, be sympathetic to their concerns about safety. When you look at that tree, it's just so close to the house. Never should have been there in the first place. And, I love trees. I have a whole yard full of maple and oak trees that are about this tall because I refuse to pull them up. Trying to create my own little forest. But, when I look through the standards, I think they've met the standards, even though there is no plan. And even if they had a plan, I imagine there would be objections to removing the tree. So I'm actually in favor of granting the petition.
Thank you. Vice Chair Yevlin.
I'm uncomfortable all the way around, to be honest. For me, I understand the anxiety that would be stressful, but if you listen to the experts, it's a very healthy tree. So what my fears would be might not be in keeping with what's actually there. In terms of what Member Coulter was saying, if we were to see more proof that this tree was damaging the foundation versus just saying, oh, it could be, that would sway my decision, I believe. Currently, I do not believe the standards have been met. We really prioritize keeping trees in Highland Park. Sorry.
Thank you. I actually tend to agree with Member Beck at this point. I find there's something, I'm a big believer in trying to preserve trees if possible, but I find there's something somewhat aberrant about forcing you to live in fear, having a tree that's encroaching upon an existing deck. If you were to rebuild it, you'd have to make it smaller or somehow reinvent the wheel to have a replacement. It hits near to where I live, literally, because I have a tree that comes up, and I'm sure as a heritage tree, comes up right through the middle of our deck, also slopes over our house. We've had a few branches fall off. It's done some minor damage to the roof. I've always thought at some point I may find myself in front of whoever the next board is saying, I need to remove a heritage tree for safety reasons, it's damaging my house, etc. So I can kind of sympathize with that, and I think it would be wrong to force you to wait until some damage occurs to say, okay, you were right, the tree was a danger, now you can take it down. So I would be actually in favor of giving you permission to remove this. Having said that, let me say a few more things as to what our options are. First off, there are generally 7 members of the board. only 5 of us are here tonight. It requires 4 votes. Any vote that we take requires 4 votes for it to pass. You have the option of asking us to call for a vote. If you would like us to vote now, you have the option of continuing this and somehow trying to conform your request to some of the ideas that have been presented to you. You have the option to continue it until there's 2 more board members, which might change the outcome. It may not. But I just want to, before I do anything, I want to let you know what your options are and find out what your preference is. You, please, if you would step up to the microphone.
Can I ask a question?
Members are asking us a question first.
I just have a question to, you can go to the podium. Have you talked to any kind of foundation professional or expert? Just because I think there's I'm not suggesting you spending unnecessary money doing so, but I just feel like there's a way to get some sort of assessment done without, demolishing the deck and digging. I don't know. There's got to be some sort of way to kind of understand a little bit better about what's happening in your existing house. Because I think that would.
If you're I'll ask you to state your name and then I'll have to swear you in, please.
Of course. Dean Bradshaw?
And do you affirm or attest that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do so affirm.
Please go ahead.
We are getting seepage in our, at our back door. We have a walkout basement. It's a rear entry to the basement door. It's unclear if that's related to the tree or not. As the forester, Mr. Miller, mentioned, who I respect, and, I totally understand his position, it sounds like true verification of its foundational impact would be expensive and destructive to the existing deck, which we are intending to replace regardless, but it would significantly change the scope of the plan, knowing what kind of deck we're going to rebuild. I'd come back to the fact that we have over 20 trees on our property that are of 18-inch or larger trunks, of which I believe there'd be at least existing 6, maybe 7 oaks that are still on our property with various maples. So this isn't, I just wanted to reaffirm that this is not a willy-nilly, let's get rid of a tree kind of concept, which honestly seems to be a bit of a trend as we see more and more redevelopment in our area. That's not at all our intention. And yes, we've spent quite a bit of money to care for the tree and to trim it back, but regardless, it will never get to the point where we would feel safe enough, because it would unbalance the tree per the tree trimmers we've spoken to, as well as, of course, we have a 36-inch trunk that is less than 3 feet from our home.
Thank you. Any questions for this witness before he walks away? No?
So I think I just kind of wanted to address the rebuilding the stairs some other way. I don't think you can quite tell from here, but I'm not aware of any other way you can build these stairs. They would have to go around the tree from the back. Like, what do you want to do? Circle around? Because the door is right there. The door is literally next to the tree. So the only other way to build a stairway would be to build a circle around the tree and come at it from the back way, and you'd still be less than 3 feet. I mean, there's literally no way to build a stairway that would be less than 3 feet because the door is right there. So there's just no way that that would ever go to code. And it is damaging our home, like, because, the tree is pushing against the stairs, which is damaging the stucco. You can see it, it's crumbling. So, I mean, we have to do something, right? And I don't feel comfortable building a stairway that's less than code or trying to get a variance so that, somebody who is, larger can't walk up our stairway in the backyard, because truly that's how we come in and out of our house. So I feel that suggesting there's an alternative way to build the stairway is not really possible. The only alternative would be to make it more narrow.
Thank you. We've heard your additional, I don't know if anybody else has anything else they want to say at this point, but member Beck.
I think before you asked them that question, I think a couple of us were on the fence about which way we were leaning. Mm-hmm. Maybe you want to go through this again and give them a better idea of what their chances are.
I'm happy to do that. I think we know where you
I'm a
stand.
yes, but Brad was.
I think Brad was the only one on the fence, but we can go through.
Sorry, I put you on the spot.
No, I mean, I think I would be in favor of granting the variance. I think that it's just an unfair situation and it's an obvious safety risk. And again, I think it's inappropriate for us to force you to live in this sort of type of environment with this staircase as it is. So I would actually be in favor of granting the variance.
Before I put anyone else on the spot, I'll say that without putting words in anybody else's mouth, despite the fact that I've said that I am in favor and I remain in favor of granting the variance, I think it might bolster your case if somebody else were to be here, either an architect that says there is no other way to build the staircase, or an engineer that says it looks like your seepage might be caused by root damage, something that may bolster your case and sway some of the others that are still on the fence or perhaps against the variance, or the members that aren't here. Having said that, I'll continue to now ask Member Collier where he's standing at this moment.
Oh, thank you, Chair. I'm still not in favor of it. I think if we walk carefully through a number of the requirements to grant the tree removal permit, the way the standards are written, I have trouble with some of the required standards.
And that leaves Vice Chair Yadlon to take her temperature at this point, so to speak.
I agree with what Member Coulter said, that at this point, I don't believe the standards have been met. And potentially with more information, I would feel differently.
So you kind of have an idea of where we stand.
I guess we don't really have a choice. So I guess we'll wait until the next month for all of you guys to do that.
So are you requesting that we continue this to the next zoning board meeting?
Yes.
Okay, the applicant would like to continue this to the next zoning board meeting. Can I get a motion, please?
Before we motion,
Oh, sure.
to clarify dates, and I guess could you ask if they plan on providing more information? The way the calendar sits right now is that August 1st is a 2-week. So if the applicant submits new material, staff may not have time to, because Ben would have to review it, then I would have to review it to prepare materials for that August 1st. So if new materials are submitted, it might be better to do the August 15th meeting, just stating for timeline and
Got it.
process.
Are you okay? You might need a little bit more time to gather whatever additional, say, are you okay with continuing this to the August 15th meeting?
Could you guarantee us that all of the members?
No, I can never guarantee that. I can't. I mean, people get sick or they have emergencies come up. So, I mean, usually we have more than 5. Sometimes we don't. We've had as little as 4. There's no, and occasionally we do have 7. Probably, I would say most of the time we have 6 or 7, but I can't really predict that.
I hate to say it, but you could always continue it again if, worse comes to worse too. It's not the answer you want to hear, but it is an option.
I can guarantee I won't be here on the 1st.
You won't be here on the 1st, but
No.
probably will be during unforeseen circumstances, you'll be here on the 15th. So.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Would you like to get this continued to the 15th?
Okay.
Can I get a motion, please?
I'll make a motion to continue us to the August 15th meeting.
Second?
Second.
Okay. Motion by Member Beck to continue this to the August 15th zoning board meeting, seconded by Member Zaransky. Can we get a vote, please, Patrick?
Yes. Member Beck,
Aye.
Member Zaransky,
Aye.
Member Coulter,
Aye.
Vice Chair Yablon,
Aye.
and Chair Bay.
Aye. Continue to the August 15th meeting without further notice. Thank you.
Tough spot for the tree.
Okay, next matter on our agenda is VAR-2024-00022, property address 251 Oak Knoll Terrace. The appellants are Daniel Salgado and Jessica A. Rivero Beck. Patrick, do we have a presentation, please?
Yes. So 251 Oak Knoll Terrace, applicant Danielle Salgado and Jessica A. Rivero Beck. Proposal is to add an addition that will encroach into the side yard setback. The property is located in the R5 zoning district. The existing home was built in 1941, according to the Lake County Assessor's Office. The request is to encroach into the required side yard setback of 9 feet by 1.2 feet for a new addition. Here is the approximate location of the property. It is adjacent to the steep slope zone and the aerial. See that area a little bit better. So this is the Plata survey. It's impossible to see here, but the home currently sits 7.8 feet from the side property line, so it is a non-conforming structure. The minimum side yard for that side is 9 feet. So the current structure is already non-conforming. As you can see, this is photos from the front and the rear of the property. The addition will be going above the garage here, which is why they require variation, because the existing structure is currently non-conforming and the increase in bulk is what is putting them before the board. So because the increase in bulk is encroaching within the side yard setback, they are requesting a 1.2 foot encroachment, a total of 2.07 square foot. That encroachment. It's just this corner of the structure here. Here are some renderings of what the house will look like. Again, the addition will be above the existing garage. I didn't receive any neighborhood comment, and no other city division has comments. So the requested relief is to encroach into the required side yard of 9 feet by 1.2 feet for a new addition. I asked the board to use Chapter 150 zoning code standards of approval. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to help.
So they're not looking to increase the footprint at all, Patrick, is that correct?
Correct. It's just going right on top of the existing structure.
Anybody have any questions for staff? No? Yes?
I'm trying to remember when the house was built.
1941.
41, and the current the current zoning map and was subsequent to that, so it became non-conforming because after the city created.
Correct.
zoning
I don't
ordinance.
know when the newer side yard regulations was enacted. A lot of our codes are quite old, but 1941 is pretty old. So I assume, I don't have an answer if it was built conforming or not, but it is a possibility that it was turned into a non-conforming structure.
Okay, thank you.
Was the garage part of the original house, do we know, or?
To my knowledge, yes. Yes. The applicant might know better, but to my knowledge, yes.
And there were no other variances granted on this property?
No, they didn't get a variance to build the garage there.
Any other questions for Patrick? Seeing none, I will ask if there is someone else here that would like to be heard on this matter. Please approach the podium. If you could state your name for the record, please, sir.
Yes, my name is Jim Fairman. I'm the architect
And
here on behalf of
do you,
the owner.
do you affirm or attest to the fact that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I affirm.
Please proceed.
I don't have a lot to add to what the staff presented. It is a situation of a strange existing condition from 1941. We see, the way the house is built, we see no evidence that this garage was in any way added to the original structure, that it was harmonious with the original structure and the way, because you can see how the bricks are put together. It appears that it's always been this way since its inception. So it's a really attractive English style house, and we're trying to just continue its look. As you can see, it doesn't, the second it's one of these things we used to call like a story and a half rather than a full second floor. As it's kind of in the roof structure. So this small encroachment, which is about yay big, is it's pre-existing, and we're simply going to want to put part of the structure on the roof on top of the corner, which is the logical way of constructing this.
I assume the idea is to build the addition in a manner so it'll look like it was part of the original house when it was built.
Yeah, that's our intent, and I think the rendering bears that out. We're following the materials that are there. We're certainly going to try to match that brick by either purchasing older brick salvage from another building. We might be able to salvage part of what we're obscuring on the house. That remains to be seen, but the object is to match what's there and make it completely harmonious.
Anyone have any questions for this witness? Seeing none? Councilperson Ross?
Again, trying to be careful, I'm not allowed to comment on design or really anything. Just simply, were the neighbors aware of this?
Well, the neighbors have been notified in accordance with your
Yeah, and you haven't heard
instructions.
anything?
No.
Okay, thank you.
Anything
I
else?
can confirm that they performed their public notice procedure.
Gotcha.
Has the applicant spoken to the neighbors?
Yes, they went and visited their neighbor.
And the feedback was?
The feedback was good on all parts. I think they noticed one neighbor by mail. The rest they were able to visit. I think there were more questions about construction and noise, not about the variance at hand.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Anybody else here that would like to be heard on this matter? Thank you, sir, where you can step up. All right. Seeing nobody, I will poll the board members, and let's start with Vice Chair Yablon.
With the information presented, I would be in favor of this variance. I believe the standards have been met. I do appreciate my fellow board members asking about notice and speaking with the neighbors, just because whenever we're getting closer to someone else's property, we definitely want everyone to be happy, because happy neighbors make for good neighbors. I appreciate that it's just going right on top and that you're not creating a weird overhang or trying to do some sort of grab while you're doing this, that it would be incredibly odd looking if you built it without the little corner as part of it. So I believe the standards have been met, and I would be in favor of granting a variance.
Thank you. Member Beck.
I believe the standards have been met, and I'm in favor of granting the variance.
Member Zaransky.
I agree. I don't really have much to add. I think it's a nice enhancement and well thought out, and I would approve.
Member Collier.
I agree with my colleagues. I believe the standards have been met, and I'm glad that you had the opportunity to talk to your neighbors about it.
I too agree with my colleagues. I think there's one thing that has not been said yet. It's worth noting for the record, this is truly a de minimis request, which is always something that we kind of measure to a certain extent. So I think I would certainly say that the standards have been met and would favor the variance as well. So having said that, I would request a motion for a vote, please.
Vice Chair Yablon makes a motion to approve the order as drafted.
I'll second.
All right. Motion by Vice Chair Yablon to approve the variation approval order, seconded by Member Collier. Patrick, can I get a roll call vote, please?
Yes. Member Beck?
Aye.
Member Zaransky?
Aye.
Member Collier?
Aye.
Vice Chair Yablon?
Aye.
And Chair Bay.
Aye. Congratulations. Variations approved. Thank you. As Patrick had already pointed out, the next item on the agenda has been withdrawn. That was the item on Kipling Court. So we'll move on to the next one, which is VAR-2024-00024, property address 1825 Holly Road. The appellant is Stephen Hirsch. Patrick, do we have a presentation?
Yes. 1825 Holly Road. Applicant Steve Hirsch. The proposal is to exceed the maximum allowable fence height in the required front yard. The zoning district is R3, and the existing home was built in 2005, according to the Lake County Assessor's Office. The requested relief is to exceed the maximum allowable fence height of 4 feet by 2 feet to allow a 6-foot fence in height within the property's front yard along Park Ave West. Here is a map of the property. As you can see, it is a corner lot fronting both Park Ave West and Holly Road. Here is a aerial of the property. And here is the plotted survey. Again, this is a corner lot, and they're requesting a fence height variation, and when you're within the front yard, you're only allowed a fence with a height of 4 feet. Here are some property photos submitted by the applicant. This is from Park Ave West, and this is about the approximate location of where the fence will be constructed. So yes, this is a view from Park Ave West, and this is a view of Park Ave West from the property. They have also submitted some existing 6-foot fences that are along Park Ave West near Spruce Street, which is a block away from their property. And so the applicant is proposing to build a 6-foot fence, approximately 123.5 feet along their northern property line between their house and Park Ave West. They will not be placing a fence here within the first 25 feet, as that is an issue for visual clearance for traffic turning in and out of the street. We received no additional neighborhood comments for this packet, and we also don't have any comments from city staff. So again, this is to exceed the maximum allowable fence height of 4 feet by 2 feet to allow a fence of 6 feet in height within the property's front yard along Park Ave West. I request the board use Chapter 173 Standards of Approval.
Thank you. Questions for staff?
Just one quick question, that small little line that is not going to have the fence, where's that coming from? Is that like a city prerogative or where?
Yeah, the visual clearance is a code section
Got
that
it.
states that a fence can't
Thank
be
you.
higher than 3
I
feet.
just didn't know whose that was. Thank you.
Yeah.
Any other questions for Patrick?
I guess maybe one more. Have we dealt with variances on this street with this exact same,
On Park Avenue or
on
Holly?
Holly and Park? I feel like there's been
This was up
multiple.
on Holly, but I don't think it was. a
No?
fence.
Okay. Anyway, I thought it was
I don't
something.
recall any.
No, okay.
So I can speak to, the city recently adopted some new fence code regulations. I will go to.
Because
so-
the way Holly is, they have like 2 front yards, those houses, right?
Yes, so this property, since it's a corner lot, it does not get these benefits, but the new regulation is on through lots along major roads are allowed to build fences 6 feet in height within their functional rear yards. Because per zoning, a lot here has 2 front yards. One, the house would face one side of the street, and then they use the other side as their functional rear yard. So in these kinds of circumstances, we've allowed people to put 6-foot fences along Park Ave. So say one of these properties fronted Holly, and they use Park as their backyard, they would be allowed to put a 6-foot fence along Park Avenue. This is a corner lot, so they don't get that benefit, but that is a regulation that I wanted to put before you in consideration.
So there's a new regulation that's already in effect, but it doesn't affect the specific matter.
Correct, but it would affect possibly some of these houses here, which is why you see some 6-foot fences in the neighborhood. The other ones, they could get in variations or just people sometimes put up fences.
So if the other people were to avail themselves of the new regulations, it would be somewhat uniform. There'd be other 6-foot fences along Park.
Possibly. Again, it's the functional rear is how it is stated. That would mean that they would have to have their rear yard behind them. I think a lot of these houses front park, so I think their fences, it wouldn't work out that way. But there's a lot of variety in Highland Park, and it's a situation where those circumstances do arise. And Park Avenue West is obviously a higher trafficked road, and the purpose of that is, of higher fences in those areas, is to kind of buffer between higher trafficked roads.
Yeah, there were.
Anything else for Patrick? No. Seeing none?
Oh, sorry,
You
remember,
wait till the last second.
I know, because I'm holding it in. In terms of the functional rear yard, who gets to make that choice? Like, is there any set
It's a
of
zoning
criteria?
determination. They do not fall under that.
Like, is it based
scenario.
on your address? This is just for the code as a question, like if you're,
As it's new, I don't have a lot of experience interpreting that. Generally, it's just the way your house faces and the way you come in and out of your house and the way you use your property. So it is a very case by case, and an interpretation has to be made by city staff.
got it, thank you.
Anything else for Patrick? No? Is there someone else here who would like to be heard on this matter? If I could please get you just to state your name for the record, sir.
Stephen Hirsch.
Mr. Hirsch, do you affirm or attest that the testimony you're about to give shall be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I do.
Please proceed.
Thank you for the opportunity. From our perspective, we've lived in the house for 1 year now. And for us, it's largely a safety and security concern in wanting to build a fence to provide some form of privacy to our backyard. With the prior owners, they had a break-in shortly after the 4th of July shooting. And the access point was the rear yard through a sliding glass door right up the deck, which is visible from these pictures. Hard to see here, but that area right there. So our feeling is that because the rear of our house is really exposed, people driving by, opportunity seekers, and there may have been some of those shortly after the 4th of July parade with all the publicity, that it's easy access from Park Avenue, car driving up, exit a car, potentially break in, and that's what we believe may have happened in that circumstance. They were not home at the time, but significant valuables were stolen. We have 2 young daughters, 15, 12, and of course we want to feel safe in our house. We don't want to do anything that would impair the integrity of the neighborhood. But we think a fence closing off that area there would be helpful, as it's just doesn't make us widely visible as a potential target. 2 houses to the east has a 6-foot fence, an existing 6-foot wooden fence. Doesn't impair the appearance of the neighborhood, provides some additional privacy. We did solicit our neighbors and getting feedback, let them know that we were pursuing this, and they're all in support of it. A couple even called me, and well, one texted, one called and asked if there's anything they can do to show support. They said there's nothing you need to do. and, but we appreciated that. And that's really it. You know, we really think we want to maintain the beauty of the neighborhood, but we also want to feel a little bit more secure that access to our backyard is a little safer. The other thing to note is that there are no other houses along Park Avenue besides these corner houses that are next, just east of us. Actually, the one just east of us, that's a side yard, and they have they do have a 4-foot fence. The next one at Spruce and Holly, or Spruce and Park, has the 6-foot fence. But there's no other houses along Park Avenue in this stretch that has visibility of the rear yard, except our house, because it was built facing Holly. So that's the reason. I lost my train of thought. I was going to say something else, but
If you remember, we'll let you say it.
thank you.
So, in the meantime, does anybody have any questions?
Oh, I did remember. I'm sorry.
I hope we will let you say it. So.
Oftentimes in the neighborhood, neighbors look out for each other. We're always looking out our windows if we see something suspicious. And the rear of our house is not very visible to our neighbors either. If it was, we'd probably feel a little more comfortable. So we think it's a fairly simple, straightforward thing, and we hope that you would consider it.
Okay, thank you. Any questions for Mr. Hirsch?
Patrick, could you go to the picture of the yard? Where is it in relation to those bushes or trees that we're seeing? In the left picture, I guess.
The left picture. So that is showing the northeast corner of our property, right where that tree is, to the left of those 2 telephone poles. Probably another 3 or 4 feet to the left of that tree is the corner, the northeast corner of our property line.
Mm-hmm. What I'm trying to, I guess what are the trees gonna be between the road and the fence, or between the fence and the house?
The tree that you see there closest to the road, that larger one on the left picture, will remain, and that is in the parkway.
Okay.
So that would remain on the outside, closer to the road, not inside. The other trees on the right picture are within our property line and will be on the inside of the fence, and we're not going to disturb any of the trees.
Okay, that's fine. I was just trying to visualize.
Yeah. And our intention is to maintain the bushes, finalizing property line. We'd like to have the fence on the outside of the bushes, closer to the street. But we just need to confirm once the surveyor with the fence company takes their measurements, whether we can do that. Otherwise, we may need to put it on the inside.
I assume this is going to be a stockade style fence?
Yeah, it would be pretty standard. We're not going to do anything too crazy. It's not going to have lattices on it, but we haven't decided whether it would be cedar wood or PVC, but we certainly, it might just be white, and we think would go nice with the neighborhood.
And have you looked at increasing vegetation at all?
We're thinking of doing that as well, because with the 6-foot fence, that's certainly going to help a lot. But we're thinking of possibly planting some additional vegetation on the inside of the fence to help as well with privacy.
Any other questions? Seeing none, is there anyone else here who would like to be heard on this matter? Apparently not. I will again pull the board. We'll begin with Member Cullither.
I believe, the hardship has obviously been shown. It's that it's a corner lot in Highland Park, and that they,
It's a chapter.
I know.
Fence and flagpole. case.
yes.
We haven't never had a flagpole case, but it's a fence case.
Yes. But I believe that the standards have been met with regards to the character of the fence and its impact on the neighborhood in the city. We've certainly allowed 6-foot fences on other major thoroughfares where that is being treated as the backyard. And I did have a recollection regarding your comment by, I think it was Member Becker Zuransky earlier. We did have a case. But the house faced Park Avenue West, and the pool and the fence and maybe a gazebo were being built on the Holly side. And we allowed the fence to go in. So I have no problem with this application.
Thank you, Member Zuransky.
I agree. The fence and flagpole standards, I believe, have been met, and thank you for going through this process. Appreciate it.
Member Beck.
I'm in favor.
Vice Chair Yabla.
Unfortunately, I am not in favor. I believe we have a 4-foot front fence rule for a reason. I don't like that you don't feel safe, and I think that is stinky, and that is a legal term. But I do not believe the standards have been met in terms of why we should grant a 6-foot fence, because I just don't believe they have.
Okay, thank you. I will agree with the 3 others who would believe that the standard has been met for fences and flagpoles. I would favor the variation. I think it's a good idea to have security in your own home. And again, I'd be in favor.
I will move that we adopt draft order as presented.
Member Beck will second.
That's a motion by Member Cullither to approve the draft variation approval order to allow for the building of a 6-foot fence, and it was seconded by Member Beck. Can I get a roll call vote, please, Patrick?
Yes. Member Beck?
Aye.
Member Zuransky?
Aye.
Member Cullither?
Aye.
Vice Chair Yablon?
Nay.
And Chair Bay?
Aye. Congratulations.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay, that brings us to the next item on our agenda, which is VAR-2024-00025. Property is 1535 Cavell Avenue. The appellants are Danielle Carey and Austin Gorbett. Patrick, do we have a presentation, please?
Yes. Okay, 1535 Cavell Avenue. Applicants Danielle Carey and Austin Gorbett. The proposal is to encroach into the subdivision building line to build a 4-foot fence. The property is zoned R6, and the existing home was built in 2024 according to City of Highland Park's permits. The requested relief is to encroach 48 feet within the 50-foot subdivision building line measured from the north property line along Huntington Lane for a 4-foot fence. Here's the property. Here in the middle, these 2 properties currently don't have their building pads on them because they are being built or have been recently built. And here are here's the aerial. The plot is survey. So for R6, the front yard, the zoning front yard is 25 feet. However, this subdivision plat created 50-foot building lines, and it affects this area here, fronting Huntington Lane. So that is a doubling of the standard requirement for a front yard. Here are some pictures. So this is a photo from standing at the corner of Huntington and Cavell. The fence will be located on this portion of the property. And the photo here has a little drawing of the approximate location of where that fence would be located. The highlighted area is where the fence will be built. Just a box 4840 by 48 in essentially their rear yard, because the building goes pretty close to the property line here, and the driveway takes up the southern portion of their property. So this is a Chapter 150 request. They are not requesting a fence height variation. They're going to be building a 4-foot fence. They are encroaching within the subdivision building line, which requires a variation to place a structure within that area.
Even if the structure is only a fence?
Correct. Yeah, it's anything higher than 12 inches above grade. So you can put a patio, which you can see here, that can encroach within subdivision building lines, but anything with bulk of height must come to the ZBA. And then this is just a photo, this is the subdivision plat that puts the 50-foot building lines on these properties. This is just to show that this affects the entire neighborhood. Their property is located here in approximately the middle of the subdivision. We received no neighborhood comments for this project, and city staff, other city divisions don't have any comments. So again, this is to encroach 48 feet within the 50-foot subdivision building line, measured from the north property line along Huntington Lane for a 4-foot fence. I ask that the board use the Chapter 150 standards of approval. And if you have any questions, I'd be happy to help.
Any questions for Patrick? Member Cullen.
Are there other instances, or I guess properties, I don't want to say in the whole subdivision, because it is obviously a big subdivision, that are affected? So are there other, I'm going to say on the 2 blocks, since it's a corner lot, going each direction, that have fences that encroach within the subdivision building requirement?
I am not aware of any. Maybe the homeowner knows a little bit better. I don't know of any, at least in the approximate, just like area here, but maybe wider out there could be. I'm not aware.
That's why I didn't ask you for the whole subdivision.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, again, this is a corner lot though, so it has 2 frontages, which has they have higher, the corner lot.
Other questions for Patrick? Seeing none, I will ask if there's someone else here that would like to be heard on this matter.
Can I just ask Patrick one quick question? Sure. When you go back to that original plot that showed the 50-foot subdivision building lines, the corner lots don't have that on the original plot. They don't have a 50-foot on the side, what would effectively be the side yard. I'm just looking, that's kind of curious.
So how the house is built, yes, this red line is the subdivision building line.
And there's nothing there.
It's only on this portion of the property. How the house was built, they just, if they could have used their backyard here, they wouldn't require a variation to put a fence in that spot.
No, but on the original plot, it doesn't show it on these corner lots. It only shows one building, subdivision building line.
Or not to the side yard.
Not to the side. Look at a corner lot. You only see one subdivision building line.
So you're saying there may not be a subdivision,
Yeah.
the line may not exist?
I think it's possible.
It's not drawn.
So the subdivision building line doesn't exist on both frontages, it only exists on one. The property here, let me scroll to it real quick. So the property is number 75 of this subdivision, which shows the 50-foot building line here. The name of the roads have changed since the creation
Looking at that, yeah.
of the subdivision, so it's always fun locating properties. But according to the legal description, it is lot 75, if I believe I remember correctly, which shows a 50-foot building line along the northern portion.
Just look for one, two, just look for 75.
Yeah, it's right there. Oh, it doesn't show it on this side. Okay. So it shows it on Ridgeland.
I think for
Oh,
purposes
okay.
of this
All right,
evening,
that
we'll have
makes-
to
all right.
assume that the line does exist. so.
It's there now. Okay. I was looking.
All right, thank you, Patrick. Could you state your name for the record, please?
Yes, Danielle Carey.
And do you affirm or attest that the testimony you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
I affirm.
Please proceed.
So thank you for allowing us to come before you and just share a little bit about why we would like to ask for this variance. So I apologize, we are not great artists, but my husband and I...
Could you maybe either lower the microphone and come a little closer? Thank you.
My husband and I moved here in April with our 1-year-old daughter, and we are requesting this primarily for the safety of our daughter as she is starting to become mobile. This was a tear down and rebuild, and so originally the front of the house was actually where the side of the house is now, and so now the side, the side yard was previously the front yard, and this will now this will be the only bit of yard that we have. The back of the house, there is no place to place a fence. And so originally when we moved out this way, we were moving from the city, very excited about the opportunity to have an outdoor space that was safe for both our daughter and our dog. And so I think when we're looking at the strict letter of the regulation, we understand that this was in place so that we weren't building a structure, part of our home that close to the road. However, I think that the request that we're making is not out of line with the spirit of the variance that we're requesting, because I think it's really more structurally about the house. And so our request is to be able to place a 4-foot fence, wrought iron. It would not be a privacy fence. It would be picket style. We've discussed with an installer what it would look like. Potentially, we explored the idea of doing vegetation as privacy instead, but it still doesn't provide the security to keep our dog and our daughter, who's now kind of toddling along, in a safe space. There is a good bit of rather fast traffic along Cavell, and so that's another liability for my family. So that's why we're here and why we're requesting the variance.
Any questions for this witness? Seeing none, I will ask if there's anyone else here that wants to be heard on this matter. They're lining up. Doesn't appear to be. Okay. Then I will poll the board and we'll begin with Vice Chair Yap.
First of all, I'm so relieved you're not asking for a 6-foot fence. Thank you. I believe that fences are important. As a once young mother with little kids and a dog, it's huge. And I understand that this is, a subdivision issue. I believe the standards have been met and that a 4-foot fence is a completely reasonable ask for this location.
Thank you. Member Beck.
Yes.
Member Zaransky, thank you.
I agree too. I think you kind of hit it on the head with, it's maintaining the spirit of the code, and I appreciate it.
And I would agree with my colleagues, and I would ask the city council, if there's ever a future subdivision being created in the city of Highland Park, not allow the builder to put a subdivision building line on it, because I believe it creates more headaches than it resolves.
Okay. I agree with my colleagues. Think you've met the standards. I would vote to approve the variance. Having said that, I will entertain a motion.
Member Beck will move to approve the order as written.
Member Yablon, or Vice Chair Yablon, Seconds.
You're not a muggle anymore.
Motion by member Beck to approve the variance, seconded by Vice Chair Yablon. Patrick, can I get a roll call, please?
Yes. Member Beck?
Aye.
Member Zaransky?
Aye.
Member Caulfield?
Aye.
Vice Chair Yablon?
Aye.
And Chair Ping?
Aye. Congratulations, you're
Thank
approved.
you.
Thank you.
As a side note, that's a ridiculously cute photo.
Yeah, we got through a lot of items today.
Sure. You really spearheaded them.
Keep things moving. Well, thanks to member Beck.
Chairman for life.
Sickness.
I'm going to try to be more succinct next time.
Can we
I was gonna make
update?
it- I was gonna make an off-color joke, but I won't now.
Update the code to get Jamie and Kevin another term?
Thanks. Patrick, do we have a staff report?
We do not have a staff report.
Okay. Do we have any miscellaneous?
Is there an August meeting? There is an August meeting?
No, there will not be an August 1st. We have nothing scheduled for that date.
Oh, nice movement.
What did we decide on the legal training? Do you remember the date?
The first one in September.
Okay.
Just make sure it's before his term ends.
You've done it in December?
Yeah, it is.
And actually, to go off of that, September 5th, which is the meeting date, is also the open house for Highland Park High School, so I know I will not be here. I don't know if that impacts other members.
I don't have high school students.
I don't have high school
All
students.
right, that takes us to adjournment. Do we have a motion?
I'll move that we adjourn.
Second.
Member Beck will second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? We are adjourned.
Okay, you ran a hell of a meeting.